Thing but the best.
This
Not
is what
Locke.
happens when Locke doesn't show up.
It's a black void.
All right.
Whatever.
So let's start off. Zube, you're a big PvP fan.
I am.
It's
Yes.
kind of your thing. It's what you look forward to. What about PvP and MMORPGs excites you, or what's your history with it too?
So I started playing Dark Age of Camelot while I was playing EverQuest, and I think mainly it was because I was playing so much EverQuest, I was getting sick of just killing NPCs constantly. I wanted more of a challenge, so I turned to PvP to try to have more. Like, I like the reactions of other people rather than AI. It's just more of a challenge to me. It's more fun. Dark Age of Camelot was really fun. So, yeah, I played that for like 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. That's
Yeah.
that's a long stint in a game.
I played EverQuest for 8 years.
Oh
Wow.
wow. And you've been playing a whole lot of MOBAs recently.
Specifically, Heroes of the Storm. I can stop anytime I want to.
Oh. So what is it about MOBAs and that kind of PvP style that gets you really...
Well, for the longest time, I really liked playing PvP in WoW because you could kind of jump in and jump out. It wasn't like, okay, you know, I have to spend hours and hours doing something so I can do it. It's just like, queue up for a battleground, boom, I can play a couple, then go do whatever. But WoW was getting kind of boring because it was kind of repetitive, I guess. So the nice thing, I guess, about MOBAs is you get that battleground experience, but just, you know, in kind of different packages. And I'm really liking Heroes of the Storm because I feel like they've taken the core elements of MOBAs that make it fun, and then gotten rid of like stuff that makes it not fun, like items, which I really hate. So, so yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So, MOBAs recently have done a great job with creating a PvP experience that gets people hooked. But it's been a long time since I've played an MMORPG where I felt like PvP was, you know, even entertaining. That, you know, I enjoyed some Hutball and Old Republic, played a little bit of that. You know, I played a lot of Warsong Gulch and WoW with my like level 30 Druid Twink before that was just something that everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, before you could lock your level, you know, when you had to make sure that you did not accept the experience for the quest, so that
That's
you didn't
funny.
become that you didn't level up. But apart from, like, since Dark Age of Camelot and Shadowbane and a couple other games, like, is there something that I'm just missing that it's not there, right?
Did you guys ever play Warhammer Online?
Yes, of course.
I was,
What did you think?
I was a little behind in Warhammer.
Warhammer Online did a lot of things right and wrong. I really do not like the RVR experience in Warhammer compared to Dark Age, even though they were trying to copy it. It was the same company. Mythic made, well, EA and Mythic made it. But a couple of things they did really wrong in RVR in that game was that they forced you to have specific plots where you can put your siege weapons. So in Dark Age of Camelot, you can put down like a trebuchet or a catapult anywhere. In Warhammer, you actually had to put it down in specific spots in front of the castles, which I really did not like that at all. Also, there was a lot of keep trading in Warhammer, which I hated.
Yeah.
What's the point of capturing a keep and then just letting someone take it?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things, I mean, that's why I think the game just did not pick up too well compared to Dark Age.
See, I never played Dark Age, so I guess I don't have that point of comparison. But I did like Warhammer, so
I
thought
like
it
a
had
lot
potential.
of features of Warhammer, but I started playing like 3 weeks after launch,
Mm-hmm.
and you know they built in all of that like group content, like the fake emergent content. It's like the first game to do that. The ongoing quests and the group quests in the regions, and because I was 3 weeks behind when everybody else started playing the game, I was like alone in all of these areas. I couldn't ever experience the game. It's just like the wrong day that I played, that I started playing Warhammer. So we have 2 games coming up that are highly focused on PvP. We could talk about Albion Online as well at some point if we ever feel like it, but I don't want to. I don't think it's ready. So, Crowfall and Camelot Unchained seem to be approaching filling this need for PvP in different ways. What do you guys think are the positives and negatives of their approach?
Well, can you maybe sum up what you think are the differences? Especially for people who might not be
talk
familiar.
About RVR quite a bit.
A couple of differences I feel like are both in these games. So Camelot Unchained is more like the RVR experience. You have 3 realms, more of a team-oriented type of game where you want to try to take over territory and beat the other people back. Crowfall has more of a, it kind of feels like a free-for-all type of thing. I mean, you do join teams when you join a campaign, but it's not like you may not be with them again in the next campaign, where you're always going to be with the people that you're with on one realm forever, unless they change servers or delete the character and change realms. That's the main differences, I think. Also, the whole thing with the Holy Grail is going to be more of a Holy Grail in Camelot Unchained, with you have healers and tanks and CC people and DPS. In Crowfall, there's no healers from what I see.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And I don't think there's going to be much CC either. So I feel like Crowfall is going to be more of a Zerging type of game. I mean, maybe not. I don't know how much yet. I do know that Camelot Unchained is going to have crowd control stuff. So Zergs are going to be busted down if you have a good 8-man group like you did in Dark Age.
For me, I see the difference being how the context is presented in Dark Age of Camelot, and this idea moving into Camelot Unchained, that it's a constant battle over the same space all the time, right? So you become you're very connected to that specific world that you're in. There are places where there are battles going on all the time, and there are other places that are quiet at different times, but it's really about you and your realm exerting influence over this world, and this back and forth ebb and flow. Kind of like what you see in PlanetSide 2 has a little bit of that, but this is in the fantasy role-playing environment, not just like the FPS game. And where Crowfall, so you've got your own Eternal Kingdom where this is your place where you hang out, and you have different types of allegiances to your alignment, the order, balance, and chaos, your god, there are 12 of them, we don't know all of them, and your guild. And you join long-term but finite campaigns. So your goal is it's like you're going off to war. So it's not necessarily about your home. And that's the big difference. I really like the going off to war idea. I think that I like the idea that the developers of Crowfall are embracing a known issue and working around it, like the need for some way to jumble or reset the environment so it doesn't become stagnant. Where Camelot Unchained has to approach that problem from a very different perspective, because it is this persistent world forever. Like, you will always be fighting in this world unless you quit and make a character elsewhere.
Although you will be building your own castles and building your own houses and stuff like that, so they can be destroyed. It is a permanent world, but things that you're fighting for and over might be different. I mean, I don't think you'd be fighting over the same castle 200 times. It'll probably be destroyed by that time. But that is also, yeah. But I do like how Crowfall is approaching that too. That's why I back both. I see room for both games. I'll be playing Crowfall if I'm not playing Camo Unchained, and the whole fact that you can level your characters or rank them up without having to be on like Eve does. You just click on what you want to rank up, and then I could be playing Camo Unchained, and then like, oh, I'm gonna go play Crowfall now instead, since my character's leveled up.
The whole offline leveling seems to be kind of a sore spot with some people. What do y'all think about that?
I love. I think. Like,
yeah, I'm not opposed to it at all. Trying to read between the lines a little bit and get a good grasp on it, it seems like your membership in Eternal Kingdom structures, so because you're trained by NPCs placed in Eternal Kingdoms is the wrapper for it. So, or the way they talk about it, your past life, you're remembering it through the help of a priest trainer. And because there's some sort of... I like that it forces you, not necessarily forces you, but it gives you a reason to care about your Eternal Kingdom and not just be doing a campaign. And there are things that you can only level up by doing in Crowfall, but I don't see the value in logging in just to do an action with the sole purpose of leveling up in a PvP-based game.
Yeah.
And if they want to put a time gate and make you feel like your character is growing, it's gonna...
Generate surface
It's still going to happen.
New skin is revealed.
But what is not going to happen is you're not going to get so strong that you're going to like swipe one hand and like knock people off the battlefield. It's a shallower progression, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think they said you'll progress quickly at the beginning and then it tapers off, basically. So.
Yeah, I don't think, and because you're bringing a limited amount of things, so everyone's allowed to bring the same things to a campaign. So you're not going to, and there's a limit. You're not going to have this huge discrepancy in power between one individual and another at the start of a campaign. That you may not be, depending on the rule set, you may not be allowed to bring, anything but your primary weapon with you. And it's the crafting and the trading and your interaction in that campaign and what you do in that campaign that could help you to stand out and be more impactful there. And so I think that the way the whole system works, that passive leveling, maybe it's an artificial time gate that they don't need, and everyone should just be capped, or it's just fine. This idea of I earned it more than that guy because I spent more time killing rats or whatever. It's not valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they just want to have some kind of progression for some people that just like that feeling of, oh, I ranked up this skill, like leveling up a character. That feeling of having some kind of progress on their character. I would rather just have everyone the same level of all their skills and just run around in the battleground or campaign and kill each other. But
well, it's kind of like PvP in Guild Wars 2, where it's like, everyone's the same. Basically, there's no stat bonuses really, and all the armor is just cosmetic that you get. And so it's kind of, I think they did a good job leveling up the playing field that way. Last time I played, I don't know, you played recently, so you know better than me.
Playing again. Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
They did that really great, I think, where if you just want to jump into PvP, you make a level 1 character, jump on there, and everyone's 80.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, Camelot Unchained has a very different perspective when it comes to how your character grows. It's if you're not actively using your skill, it's not progressing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, how does that, as really the polar opposite of Crowfall's growing as a character, at least for part of it, how does that make us feel about leveling and growing as a character in Camelot Unchained?
Yeah, that has a little bit more, I guess, more feeling of loud. More feeling of accomplishment, I guess. I don't know. It will take a while to level up, rank up these skills, and they're doing a horizontal type thing. So just like in Crowfall, even if you rank up your skills, you won't be way more powerful than a level 1 character or a character just starting off. But you will have to level up like your fireball or level up your like sword attacks or whatever. Just by using them, you use them over and over again. You get experience by leveling up that and get more proficient in that. That's why I feel like both games have their spots. If I want to rank up all my skills, I have to play Camelot Unchained, whereas I can just level up all my skills on my character by just doing it while I'm logged off. I feel like it's actually a really good combination for both games.
Now, one of the neat things about Camelot Unchained was, if I remember right, you may want to not level up certain skills, like because your actual stats can be affected by the fact that you're using a skill.
That's
so, like,
cool.
If you're using a sword, your strength, like you're actually strengthening your body and you're molding yourself into someone that may be better at using a melee weapon. Where, one of the examples was talking about like a lightning mage, and that they may want to make sure that they're not overly exposed to water and stuff like that.
No swimming.
I like the idea that it's not I want to just max out every skill, that's my goal, I'm going to be the guy that can do everything. No, it's about who am I as a character, and what does my character do, and what do I need to be doing in my non-active battle time to make sure that I'm accomplishing my goals when I get there.
It's Camelot that does, like, in character creation, you get, like, positives and negatives, basically?
Yeah,
I thought that was really clever. It reminds me, actually, a lot of tabletop games, like pen and paper, but I don't think I'd seen any system do something like that. I thought that was a cool mechanic.
Actually, I think Shadowbane did it too. Oh, did Shadowbane do something like that? Well, they had these runes you could add and stuff to your character in Shadowbane. I don't know if they had like banes and boons type of thing that Camelot Unchained does. I'm in the alpha for Camelot Unchained. There's a ton of them. They don't really do anything yet because they're not activated, but there are so many weird ones. So like you can't use potions ever in the game.
That's funny.
Not that one, but it offsets. So like something like not being able to use potions, you have negative 10 points, so you can have an extra 10 points to use on your boons instead, so you can have some bonuses to your character, like increased damage to your fire spells or something like that. I really like that. That's really cool, doing that.
Yeah, the idea that you may have to trade off one thing for another thing it's a good way to avoid absolute min-maxing, I think. That you can make your glass cannon, but it's really a glass cannon. You know, that if all you're doing is going for that one thing, you're going to have to sacrifice so much else that I think it will deter people from that. The absolute. There will be people who say, my goal is to have the most powerful fireball in the game, and there will be quite a few people that want to do that. But there should be some variation there. I think it doesn't make sense with such a complex system and the negatives that we'll have a whole bunch of cookie cutters.
Mm-hmm. I also like that it seems like they're focusing more, your actions have consequences and your choices make a difference in the long run, which I'm looking forward to. It seems like modern MMOs are going more toward that, because like in WoW, nothing is stopping me from going and like, killing a whole outpost full of people, and then I can just go into a town and nobody reacts any differently. Everyone's still like, hey, hero, how you doing? So I like the idea that, your choices will have a lasting effect on your character development. I think that'll be good for, like, roleplay as well. So, looking forward to more interesting mechanics like that.
So, with both of these games, they're advertising having very few NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it's different from, like, the three of us met talking about EverQuest Next, which is a game that will revolve heavily around interacting with NPCs. That's the framework. That's what the world for EverQuest Next is planned to be. I think that's the right way to say it. Where in Camelot Unchained, it's going to be about who people are, who's playing. That this isn't that the Vikings are real people. These real people control this territory. I'm not necessarily walking into a Viking NPC town, and because I'm Arthurian, people are giving me funny looks. Now if I'm an Arthurian and I walk into a Viking town, real people are going to murder me.
I love that though. Like, did y'all play Star Wars Galaxies at all?
Yeah, I played a little bit of it.
Okay, that is like my favorite MMO of all time, I would say, specifically because like everything was real people. Like one of my friends was he was a smuggler, which means you can like craft and enhance weapons and stuff, but he was also a musician. So he would role play, like sitting in the cantina, playing his Narglon or whatever, and then someone would be like, "Hey, I heard you're the guy to talk to about stuff." So, you would get famous on your server for being able to do stuff like that, or like people would make towns, where they would put on shows and have big social gatherings. So I'm really looking forward to having elements of that again, where it's not just your disposable character, whatever, where it's like you can actually make an impact on the world.
So yeah. I think Camelot Unchained has lots of options for getting in character and feeling part of your faction and going. Does Crowfall?
It does. I don't know. Do they have much information out about that? I might just be behind on the.
I mean, I don't know, because the whole Eternal Battleground, is that what it's called?
Eternal Kingdom.
Eternal Kingdoms, right? Not everyone will be in your Eternal Kingdom, so it's not like it's kind of like a little instance for the people that you invite or want to join. So you won't be seeing everyone in the game in there unless you invite everyone in the game to your one kingdom. So I'm not sure. I mean, you'll have kings and barons and knights and stuff with their. I
think that's all kind of mini game though. They refer to the Eternal Kingdom as like where the housing layer and your home, and that in the future they're talking about ways in which you can challenge other Eternal Kingdoms and open it up. Basically, like, but it's more like you're wagering something to happen. It's not. It feels different than the campaigns, where when you join a campaign, you are, representing something greater than your character. I'm really looking forward to the 12 faction, the layer they call the infected, where
yeah.
you're fighting for the god that you've chosen. Because there's so much. As you go there, you may be fighting against someone that you fight alongside with in the guild, in your guild, or in your is it God's Reach?
Yeah, you join
Yeah, I forget all the names, but the one where you're fighting for your alliance, for your
Chaos.
alignment.
It's in Chaos Neutral and
Yeah.
Order, I think.
Yeah. So, I like that, when I'm in the campaign, I am involved in... I do have a role. I do have a little bit more of an RP persona, but you meet someone that you know in the campaign who is fighting against you. It's this, awkward, Civil War kind of thing, brothers fighting brothers, hey man, you didn't show up to this fight on the right side. When we're back in the Eternal Kingdom, we'll hang out, do stuff. But for now, either you run or you die.
I also think it's clever from just a gameplay mechanic standpoint, because there's always the big PvP guild. They just run around stomping people. So it'll be nice to have the option, to switch it up a little bit. And just kind of keep it interesting,
Yeah, how do you think guilds will affect that? Guild size is going to be, and guild power is going to be a big thing for some of the campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Camelot Unchained, there are going to be guilds that work very well together, but your primary allegiance is to your realm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like.
Right.
How do we see guilds within realms competing against each other in for prominence or things like that in Camelot Unchained? I think building is going to have a lot to do with that. My guild built this area, this castle, and put this defensive structure together, and this idea of having an identity within the larger identity may have some value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both from a, strategic standpoint, and also from just, again, role-playing, or, maybe you have a guild that are all knights, so you all do, chivalrous things, or bandits or pirates or whatever, so... I think there's room for all kinds, though, because some people want, they just want to be part of, the biggest guild they can, and it doesn't matter what. But then some people are looking for a more specific experience. So I think it'll all shake out as people kind of find out more what they are interested in.
So for guild, would, in Camelot Unchained specifically, and the RVR structure, is a guild more than a glorified social chat channel? I haven't read much about what they envision guilds to be. Is that listed anywhere? I'm trying to understand the concept of guild within that system, and it seems very much secondary in any way that I imagine it. Zube, you played more Dark Age of Camelot than...
In Dark Age of Camelot, there was a competition between guilds. Actually, there was a website, I think it was called the Camelot Herald, or something like that, where you could see rankings of guilds and how many people they've killed, or how much points they've accrued throughout the entire month or week or day, and there would be little rivalries between guilds that way. But for the most part, everyone works together to just try to kill the Midgard and, I was on Albion, the Midgard and Hibernia realms. But that was really it in terms of guilds. There was fights over NPCs and stuff sometimes, because you would have to kill dragons for the good loot and shit like that. Sorry. But And I don't think that will be like that in Camelot Chain because there's no dragons or anything to kill for stuff like that. There won't be any fighting over loot like that. So it'll be interesting actually seeing how that actually turns out. Never really thought of guilds and stuff like that in Camelot.
Well, Dorcas just brought up a good point in chat. He said only the strongest guilds will have island or mountain keeps. So maybe that'll be like, the new status thing is who has, like Sog was saying, who has the coolest building or the coolest plot or whatever.
Yeah, those are Kickstarter only, I think. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. They had some weird things in Kickstarter. Actually, they had a tavern. You can actually buy a tavern in the Kickstarter and make money off of it in the game when it comes out.
That's pretty cool.
They had an island, a private island, so you could have your guild on. They had some like mountaintop guild houses that were inside the protected area. That's
okay.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, the idea of building and how much it should impact the world in Camelot Unchained is, it's almost hard to believe, thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched quite a bit of Andrew Meggs streaming last week, working on coding some of the building and trying to put that together. I'm hoping that it becomes a very good part of the game. It seems like it's also their biggest challenge. Once they get over that hurdle of they want thousands of people fighting in one area, which in itself is a big challenge. The next big challenge is how do they make building feel like it really matters? And I think they've got a good start, but the quality of the game in the end, I think, will hinge very much on that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not another difference between these two games we're talking about. Camelot Unchained is not a voxel world. It's a mesh world, and it kind of has to be for what they want technically to happen. They're very, very, very conscious about how quickly things render and the performance of the game, and ensuring that they get the most out of it. Where Crowfall is embracing destructibility as a primary part of gameplay and licensing a voxel engine to be able to make that happen. I haven't read much about building in a campaign world or any kind of building tools for Crowfall, but there will be some in your Eternal Kingdom for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that. I like that if they're using the voxel engine to add a feature to the game instead of trying to make another game that's about building stuff with voxels.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main thing with Crowfall and the campaigns is that you won't be building houses and castles and keeps and stuff. It's going to be procedurally generated things like that, like little lumber mills and stuff like that, and you want to take it over and fortify them to take over. You won't be, like in Camelot Unchained, you'll be building all that stuff in the huge battleground, but you won't be doing that in Crowfall.
But in Camelot Unchained, how is building limited in Camelot Unchained?
You have to buy plots from the main cities, and you have to plot down the plots wherever you want them. You'll be able to build in mining shafts and stuff like that to mine all the ore. Apparently, from what he said during the Kickstarter, is that the mining, if you want to mine and get all the materials and stuff, it's not going to be like one little node. It'll actually be like a mine shaft. You'll have to actually build things, and it'll take a long time to get all the ore out of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's the kind of feature that it's like we talk. People that talk about MMORPGs talk about wanting a little bit more realism, but we don't really want more realism, and I think that's a good kind of blend. This idea of, I have this one spot which is dedicated to the production of ore, but I'm not spending weeks, months, or years like clawing it out with my
Clink,
hands.
clink, clink.
Yeah, I'm not worrying about the minute details of like, is that support going to be there? You know, am I putting the right ventilation shafts in so it doesn't?
Did I get the
explode?
proper permit?
Yeah, that kind of.
Well, you'll have to defend against other realms because they can go in there and try to take your stuff too. So,
Which is awesome, and the idea of real resources within the world being focuses for contention is, and this idea of needing to control that mine, I think that really changes from the game from I want to expand our line that says we control this to like a planet side to where, you know, you capture a node and then it draws a new line on the map that says this is now NC territory. And but to be, well, you really don't want to go there unless you bring a huge army because there's a whole Viking army defending that spot. And that it feels right. It feels right to be defending things because of what's there, instead of defending a color or a glorified capture the flag game.
Yeah. Again, it actually, I feel like they're adding meaning to what you do in the game. It's not just, okay, we took this, we got, 20 gold, okay, let's go do something else. It's, no, we actually need to keep this so we can get, iron, so we can make better weapons for our guild, stuff like that. So, I'm excited.
For our first episode here, just talking and kind of like generally chatting about these games and how we feel it, we're 45 minutes in. I think it'll probably go a little bit more than an hour. We got a couple questions from chat. Phantom X, one of our other hosts from our Friday Theory Forge show, he asked, why do you think the MMOs with the most hype are based largely in PvP, and is this becoming the new norm?
I don't think it's become the new norm. It's just there aren't a lot of great PvP MMOs out, I think, and people are just wanting something more than killing NPCs constantly.
Yeah.
In World of Warcraft, you have the raids and stuff. I've done that. It's not exciting to me, though. I don't know. I just think it's more along the lines of people want more, something different.
It's definitely an underserved part of the MMORPG market.
It's also like what you were saying earlier, Zube. I feel like it's more of a challenge to, fight other people than it is to kill 6 snow moose over and over again. So.
Right. Playing as like an archer that's stealth, is sneaking up on a group of people. They don't know you're there, and then they find you, and you're running up. It's just a crazy combination of excitement and danger. That's why I like it.
But yeah, I think there will always be, PvE MMOs and PvP, so I think there's room for both, to be honest. And that's the nice thing about this day and age, where you don't have to be a giant game studio to make a game. You can, if you have a cool idea, you can get crowdfunded and go from there.
I also think that it's harder to make a better PvE-based game than the big games out there. WildStar made a pretty good PvE game, and not that many people play it. ArcAge made a game that is largely a PvE game with some.
Don't talk. I don't even want to talk about ArcAge, man.
All right, okay. It's bad.
Bitter. No,
it's
just
bad.
This game
Okay.
itself was awesome, but Tryon just fumbled that left and right. They did some wrong things with the cash off. People hated them for it, and now the game is just kind of falling. If Tryon did the right things, that game could have been awesome. But
So the other thing is, if you want to make a good, new, and special PvE interact with NPCs based game, you need to have this utility based AI that really nobody has successfully implemented yet. You know, the technology is really young and just being put in, and it's a whole nother type of challenge. And gaming industry veterans know how to make moment-to-moment, fun, engaging PvP. Finding a way to wrap that into a contextual world is, not only does it satisfy a market need, but it's maybe not as big of a project, because there are more knowns than unknowns going into the system. We had some other questions. I'm going to take Moose's question next. Does an MMO being funded by Kickstarter impact your expectations?
yeah, I think it does. I mean, they have a lot of promises that they need to keep. So if they don't, then people are going to be really angry. The fact that they don't have a publisher breathing down their neck, making them change things, makes a big difference too to a lot of people. I think. I mean, Warhammer had EA breathing down Mythic's back, and a lot of things were changed because of that. So I feel like with just having crowdfunding, it just makes the expectations for the game a lot higher.
Yeah, it seems like you're accountable to all those people because they're like, well, I paid for this. You know, I am your boss, basically, is what I think some people would think. So, that, I mean, not literally, I hope, but it's an interesting concept, I guess.
I have a hugely negative perception of a crowdfunded MMORPG, and I know that I'm here talking about them because I like the ideas, but I'm talking more. I'm going to be, for the life of this show, talking more about how I love the ideas and how I want to see them implemented, and I'm excited about the ideas than being. It's very, very hard for me to believe.
I can see that, yeah.
And the moment I hear someone equate something to Star Citizen, I really don't believe, because I don't believe that Star Citizen is ever going to be released. Like, I've been burnt a lot. I've been on this jump from one MMO that's not out yet to another kick for a long, long time, and they just don't come. Then you say, we're going to just ask people for money to make this game with no obligation. Well, that's a little bit of it feels like you're preying on people like me that get super excited about upcoming games. Like,
it's true.
Give me $100. Wait, you can actually give me $1,000 and get something else potentially in a virtual world that we may or may not ever release.
Or, $10,000?
Yeah.
That blows me away. Did you guys see? And they are getting it. I mean, I know that, like, I guess when you have a certain amount of money, it's like you have a different threshold of what doesn't matter to you to spend, but I'm just like, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was looking at Shadow the Avatar because it seemed interesting. And I was looking at the Kickstarter pledges, and the $11,000 pledge was sold out. I'm not sure if there's just one or more than one, but $11,000 and it's sold out. It's like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started playing that game a little bit last night, and because some
Which
of
game?
the ideas, sound kind of cool. I just wanted to check it out. I was messing around with it. It needs a whole lot of work from the very beginning, but it's just, there are great ideas out there. We know that people have the ideas. Will they ever come to be? People have talked over the last few weeks at these big conventions, saying that crowdfunding is the only way to make an MMO now. That's what we're hearing from people in the industry is, if you want to make a game, crowdfunding is the only way that you should make a game now, because you don't give anything up. You're making a game company, you're saying, I want to do these things because I love these things. I want you to support me, but you're not giving up any ownership of your company. You're accountable to no one but yourself. And it doesn't matter if if it never comes out and you get like 5 minutes of fame for not releasing a game that you took $5 million for, because they're still going to get jobs somewhere else. And you'd think that the internet would not be forgiving, but with Kickstarter fail, they're pretty forgiving.
That is a good point.
You forget that this stuff happened a week later.
But is the game industry in general that forgiving, is my question. Because the more I talk to people, the more it seems like it's actually a pretty small community where they all kind of know each other and they all, kind of follow each other's work and stuff. So would that affect people poorly moving forward if they said, oh, sorry, we're not making this game after all. Just kidding.
I don't think it's that malicious intent.
Yeah.
We could make a game. We could say that we're making a game and put out fake updates that were just like CGI videos that were pretending your gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And, go to work every day and and not make a game, because that's what it is. That it's not that it's impossible that something great comes out of it, but the amount of time and the amount of commitment and the amount of money that goes into making even a niche MMO, people chat spamming and people, we only want to make a small game, but the cost of making that small game is millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Or at least for lost earnings. That some people are working pro bono, but Crowfall set a target of $800,000. $800,000 doesn't pay the wages of their staff long enough to make this game. That means they don't have an office, they don't pay the licenses on the software they're using, they don't have a certain, if that were the only money, I know they have a lot more money from elsewhere, which is a whole nother talk about whether Kickstarter is right or not. But I have a negative perception of crowdfunding for game. I want people to have a little more. I want to be given a realistic description of a product, and I want it to be delivered on. And I think that Kickstarter allows people to give unrealistic descriptions and potentially not deliver on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the type of game you're making too. Dark Age of Camelot cost apparently $2.5 million to create, and that was with quests and NPCs and all kinds of other things like that. With these games, they don't have any quests or NPCs or anything like that. It might cost around. It's going to cost more because obviously, things just cost more nowadays. But it probably costs maybe $5 million to make a just strictly PvP game with no quests, no NPCs, and a small amount of people. And it's a niche game. It's not, they're not wanting millions. Well, I'm sure they want a million subs, but they're not going for a million subs.
I think that actually the language in the Camelot Unchained letters saying like we don't want this, we want it is a little bit off-putting. We don't want you filthy casuals is kind of how it sounds. And I feel a little bit of it inside, but the fact is they're making a very expensive game. They live in a very expensive town, and as
why they chose Virginia. I don't know why they chose Virginia, but
Virginia is expensive.
Northern Virginia, the city estate's in Fairfax, and it's a DC suburb, a very fancy DC suburb. It's a really, really nice place, but they've even said they struggle hiring because it's hard to get people to move there, and the traffic is terrible. I live in Virginia, for anybody who doesn't know. So, it's expensive to make the game that they want to make, and I hope that it happens, and I'm going to keep talking about what I hope will happen, but I do have a little bit of I have a bit of a negative impression on crowdfunded games. Alright, you guys, do you think, last question we have, do you think Use the Voxels will add to fun, scope, and tactics in PvP, both small and large scale? So I guess this is more Crowfall related.
Yeah, how I said there was no CC in Crowfall, I feel like if they allow it, I'm not sure if killing people outright with falling structures, but if it does, that'd be awesome. Just pull someone into some kind of area and just destroy the walls and have it fall on top of everyone and kill them. That would be really fun to me. Not sure if that will happen, but that would be.
Well, it'd also be cool, they have this super fortified castle, but they forgot a wall. We're just gonna knock down your wall. I don't know. I like destructibility in games. I don't know if y'all are big into shooters at all, but I play a lot of Battlefield 4. And there's just something so epic about, running around and, the map gets progressively more destroyed as you fight, but it also changes, the tactical, aspects of it. You can hide much easier in ruins than you can, just behind a building. So, looking forward to seeing how they implement it, but it'll also, I hope it won't affect performance too much, because I feel like in PvP, having a responsive game is one of the keys. So I think they'll need a balance between looking pretty and how it plays.
Nobody will play a PvP game where they feel like the technology is making the decision to die or live. You have to feel like it's your own, it's yourself or a reasonable situational happenstance that makes sense in the world that leads to you losing. One of Andrew's posts on the Camelot Unchained page mentions the Myth series and talks about the slightly chaotic nature of things, that where I played a ton of Myth 2, mostly because at the time I only had a Linux computer and it was a nice LAN game you could play in Linux. The last Bungie game made before they were bought by Microsoft. But in Myth, if you threw a grenade, or with the mods there were grenades, but they're dwarves with keg grenades. But if you didn't clear the ridge, it could roll back down and blow up your troops.
That's awesome.
That was the kind of thing that he talks about in the article. There can be this kind of environmental, negative happenstance that happens, and Myth really captured that. But what can't happen is you can't feel like you're losing the game because the game is choppy or it's just not happening. That I have good bandwidth. I have a computer that can handle this game, but for some reason, just the way that it's all coming down, it's like in landmark combat right now. You just can't. It's hard to distinguish between the game not being ready and whether you're any good or not. So, and no PvP-based game will handle that.
Mm-hmm.
But for voxels, if skill sets take advantage of voxels, like if we have abilities that create and destroy terrain in unique and neat and interesting ways, an entirely different tactical experience could be created. And the problem with that is the performance, though, that you can build a world using a voxel engine, but then you're still just exporting the mesh, and if it's not changing and it's all static, there's no difference between that and using Unreal to build your game performance-wise. But when you start changing and adjusting the structure of the environment there, and you have to send the signals back and forth between someone sending a signal to the server that they're breaking this, and then you have to instantaneously let anyone in visual range of that know that it's happening and animate it and redraw the world.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I hope that it can happen, but it's tough. I hope. I'm dreaming. This is my. I want combat in a fantasy MMO environment to really be about manipulating the world. I want that next step. I don't know if you guys tuned in when we had Miguel from Voxel Farm on our Friday show, and the idea of being able to take a voxel which has like 8 vertices, right? So it's holding eight pieces of data there, but then to even add mass data and to create a system where you're building an entire physics structure for the world around you based around these tiny little pieces that have properties. So you can melt things. If you can actually use the environment and things around you as part of a process to manufacture a spell. Now, these kinds of things that are several iterations down the road, moving towards having an atomic structure to the world is pretty cool. And I think that it will change the scope and tactics of games in the future, whether we're ready for it or not right now. I am uncertain.
If it makes you feel better, they've done psychological studies where people get as much pleasure from anticipating something as they do actually getting it. So keep on hoping, Song.
I will. I feel really good about hoping for things.
I want it now, though.
Oh, you want it now? I don't know.
Want it.
If it comes out, then I have to, play. We have one more question. I think we can wrap up in the next few minutes, and hopefully we'll have Locke here next time. But Wistaso said, what's the most obvious and practical thing that most games are missing or are hanging on to but shouldn't?
Most MMOs or games in general?
Our scope is MMORPGs, so...
I feel like nowadays the community is missing from MMOs, it seems like. In World of Warcraft, for instance, nobody really communicates with each other. It's just like you're sitting in Orgrimmar or wherever the main city is now and queuing up for battlegrounds and queuing up for arenas, and you don't talk to anyone that makes things. You just go to the auction house and buy things. You don't say anything to anyone. I mean,
Unless you want to yell at him.
Right, exactly. Like, community is just missing from these games, and getting to know people. Just that in general.
Mm-hmm.
Uni?
I would agree. I feel like, especially what you were saying, WoW seems to have built an MMO where you basically don't have to interact with anyone if you don't want to. And if that's the case, why not just play a single-player game and get on with it? So I am looking forward to, Camelot and stuff where it's like your character is a part of the world and your actions make a difference and people know you. So I think that'll be very interesting. Less disposable characters, I guess.
I don't know what the most obvious thing that games are hanging on to but shouldn't. I really don't like anything that assumes that people are dumb. I feel like
too much.
The big example is quest helpers. Remember, I know we live in a wiki world where if you do have static quests, it just doesn't matter if there's a helper or not because someone's got a web page up on their tablet or other monitor telling them exactly what to do, and that's how people were playing World of Warcraft when it got added in. I didn't really play Star Wars Galaxies, but I understand it was one of the first times that quest helper was appeared in an MMORPG. But now that we have so much procedurally generated content, and people are starting to rethink how AI and NPCs work, is that quests can become unique, that what you're doing in the game, that you don't need a helper, and the scope of them can increase, and you're maybe not given so much help. Like, that you met this one person in town, whether it's a real person or an NPC becomes irrelevant, because all you know is that this person wants something and will reward you for it. And then how you go about obtaining that could be as simple as finding somebody that has it and buying it, or going on some long quest trying to figure out how to get it, and learning about the world along the way. Having that would be a change in the way that going on a quest feels. It's not instead of a task. The Camelot Unchained website talks about how by telling people exactly where to go to accomplish the task, you actually increase how much it feels grindy. Because then people are made aware that all they're doing is walking from point A to point B to pick something up, instead of going out on a quest to search for something. And that was something that really stood out to me, and I believe completely. I think that the world of the secret world if you don't cheat, people do look things up because they are static quests. It has some pretty neat, kind of like single player puzzle game kind of quests that are a lot of fun.
I've had that sitting in my library forever. I need to actually check it out.
I don't think we have anything else specifically we need to talk about today, but we're going to be back in 2 weeks. We'll see if Locke wants to actually do this or not by then, and if not, we'll come up with another fourth host. Hopefully we'll have Locke 6 time here, and we'll, in the meantime, come up with probably a more specific topic. And we had a pretty good broad conversation about explaining our perspectives and going on. Uni, what kinds of things are you going to be doing personally in the next couple weeks?
Besides playing a lot more Heroes of the Storm, I'll probably be doing more research. I feel like I've come into these games a little bit later than y'all, I guess. So, doing a little more looking into it, kind of, seeing more what specifically I'm looking forward to, and yeah, just getting more info. I guess I'm a big researcher. I like doing that kind of thing, so.
Zube, what about you? Anything special going on with you in the next couple weeks?
Oh, start playing Guild Wars 2 again. That's my main thing, my main MMO right now. Trying to catch up before the expansion, although the expansion's not coming out until for a while, I don't think anyways. Other than that, nothing really else. Just looking up more Crowfall and Kill on Chain info, reading up on the forums and stuff. It's basically what I do day to day, getting more information on both of those games.
Alright, well, thank you everyone for coming. I'm Sog. I have opinions. That's my thing. That's just what I do. You can hear more about them on Twitter and or here on the Theory Forge channel. The next show that we'll be doing on this channel will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, and it centers around the upcoming MMORPG Revival. It's hosted by Velix and some of his friends. And if you're interested in Revival, on the Revival Game Twitch channel today, at that same time, 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern, they're doing an official live cast, and some people may be interested in tuning into. But thanks again for coming, and have a great day.